Welcome to Gameonysus Weekly, your one-stop shop for video game news, keeping up with the biggest stories so you don't have to. I'm your host, Edwin Garcia, and today we're talking about Microsoft's plans, Jim Ryan's past, and not crunching for Ratchet and Clank. All these stories and so much more on today's episode. Again, this episode is just going to cover the news and non-E3 events, so all of the Ubisoft news, Xbox stuff, all of that, that's going to be covered later. Though this episode will touch on stuff like Summer Game Fest. I think I have that name correctly. Maybe. I don't really know. Right now, I'd like to also do a bonus episode that focuses specifically just on all the games and stuff that came out of E3. And I'm hoping for that to drop like mid to late next week. And then that kind of being the bonus piece of content. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully that all comes together. There's a lot of stuff to do. A lot of games coming out, y'all. But for now, let's jump into it. Starting with Microsoft's plans for Xbox, there was a video briefing shown to press, and it revealed a bunch of new information, which was broken out to several news stories across the internet. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to be pulling from Eurogamer for all of these. I will still link the individual stories in the description, but let's kick it off. Starting with the fact that Microsoft aims to release at least one new first-party game into Xbox Game Pass every quarter. This quote comes from Matt Booty, who is the head of Xbox Game Studios, who said, quote, "In terms of the overall lineup, we want to get to a point of releasing a new game every quarter. We know that a thriving entertainment service needs a consistent and exciting flow of new content, so our portfolio will continue to grow as our service grows." I think this is an excellent goal to have. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's clear that Xbox Game Pass is kind of by far the most appealing part of that ecosystem, as well as the freedom to play across different platforms. And the only reason Game Pass is fresh is because of that day one vibe. It's the most exciting thing about it by far. So the idea of every quarter we're, somewhat guaranteed a new entry, something to get excited about, that's super noteworthy. And it also helps offset the idea of, Xbox doesn't have any games, which is not an unfounded criticism of Xbox, but at least having this kind of consistent cadence that they're striving for is really going to help push back against that narrative. More from this presser, Microsoft says it's already working on new Xbox consoles, some of which won't come to light for years. And this is something that Liz Hamren, CVP of Gaming Experiences and Platforms, had stated, expanding by saying, "Cloud is key to our hardware and Game Pass roadmaps, but no one should think we're slowing down on our core console engineering. In fact, we're accelerating it. We're already hard at work on new hardware and platforms, some of which won't come to light for years, but even as we build for the future, we're focusing on extending the Xbox experience to more devices today so we can reach more people. While we continue to expand in PC and mobile, console remains our flagship experience," Hamren added. "We want to deliver the most powerful and capable consoles in the world, devices that empower our players to enjoy amazing games for years to come, including gameplay we can't even imagine yet." And Phil Spencer had this to add, "More recently, if you couldn't spend the hundreds of dollars on a console or potentially the thousands of dollars on a high-end gaming PC, you simply couldn't participate in the global gaming community in a significant way. The cloud will allow us to completely remove these barriers to play worldwide. Of course, there's still a place for consoles and PCs, and frankly, there will always be. But through the cloud, we'll be able to deliver a robust gaming experience to anyone connected to the internet, even on the least powerful, least expensive devices, even on devices people already own. And with cloud gaming, players can participate fully in the same Xbox experience as people on local hardware, and we couldn't do that if we weren't part of Microsoft." This news is really interesting to me because I am definitely someone who felt like Xbox moves towards cloud gaming, towards Play Anywhere, toward Game Pass, toward the idea of getting people into the ecosystem more so than getting them onto a specific platform. Really did make me feel like Xbox is leading the way in killing consoles, essentially. And not necessarily for like a malicious reason or anything, but it just felt like the wave of the future is a wave that doesn't have consoles. A wave that is moving more and more towards the digital world, the cloud world, the streaming world, and all of that stuff. So to hear that at least they have new hardware down the line and are, thinking of that and working toward that, I'm super glad to hear that. And, the reality is, which we've seen from both the Xbox and the Sony side, is, sometimes what you market and what you talk about and what your plans are don't end up being what you end up executing. So I'm not going to say that this means, we don't have to worry at all about consoles disappearing. But I do think this comment sort of staves off the fear for a little bit longer. So I'm excited about that as someone that's a real big fan of consoles. Console is my preferred way to play. I feel like it is just a lot of, to echo some of those comments, the core of gaming in a lot of ways. And, for me, that's always been a really big significant part of it. It's always been how I think of the identity of generations and how I define generations and just sort of track that history. So this is really cool news. I'm also sort of surprised that they're talking about this so early on, but I think part of that is probably to get ahead of the fact that they are pushing cloud and so many other things so much that there are going to be those people that have questions, and I'm certainly one of them that had that concern. So it is good to hear that consoles are sticking around and are still considered the flagship of Microsoft. I don't think that's going to be the case forever, but it's nice to know that for the near future, we're good. Hopefully, I think. And that console comment softens the blow for the fact that Microsoft is trying to put the Xbox into your TV. Again, this is Eurogamer coming from Wesley Yin-Poole, who writes, the company is working with TV manufacturers to embed the Xbox experience directly into internet-connected TVs with no extra hardware required except a controller. Related, Xbox said it's building its own streaming devices for cloud gaming to, quote, reach gamers on any TV or monitor without the need for a console at all. Microsoft did not detail these devices, but it sounds like a Chromecast-style dongle could be in the cards. I mean, sure, this is where things I feel like are heading, and as someone that has an Apple TV and enjoys the simplicity of that device to also have like all of my streaming stuff on there and have Apple Arcade on there, even though it is a pain in the butt to me syncing up Bluetooth controllers to my television. It's not like it's totally impossible or super difficult, but it is a little bit annoying, and it does deter me from ever using Apple Arcade on my TV. So I'm hoping that if they do come out with something that's basically like a dongle style or a stick of some sort, that it'll have that sort of built in where like the Xbox controllers at least will sync up really easily with it. But yeah, someone who has absolutely moved my entire console setup from TV to TV throughout my life, this is intriguing to me. It's appealing, and especially for on-the-go gaming, like the idea of being able to just take like a dongle style thing to a hotel, to an Airbnb is really cool. I mean, that's a big appeal point for the Switch for me, where I'm like, okay, I just gotta bring the dock and my console, which is a relatively small setup. I'm cool with this as long as I still have my consoles, which hopefully I should have. I'm told I will still have them for a long time, so hopefully that's what I'm banking on, because I'm not against having the Xbox inside the TV. That's fine, but I want my traditional setup as well. And the last big thing that came from this is Phil Spencer throwing just a little bit of shade, specifically in relation to PlayStation exclusives coming to PC years after being on consoles. Here is the full quote from Phil Spencer. Across the Xbox ecosystem, we're now reaching hundreds of millions of people every month, and our total addressable market is going to grow while others are relatively static. As the Xbox ecosystem grows in both content and size, it becomes more valuable to both players and our partners. So right now, we're the only platform shipping games on console, PC, and cloud simultaneously. Others bring console games to PC years later, not only making people buy their hardware upfront, but then charging them a second time to play on PC. And of course, all our games are in our subscription service day one, full cross-platform included. Now, obviously, just like Wesley Yin-Poole points out in this article, Phil Spencer did not name PlayStation. He did not at them, but like, come on. Like, we know who he's talking about here. We know who he's talking about. And totally fair, right? Different strategies. It is very, very clear that PlayStation's move toward releasing on PC is solely in acquisition play on both the front end and the back end, basically, where it's like, okay, we can get people excited about this IP, so they do buy our hardware next time around, and if they didn't already get this game, they're going to get it a second time, and if they love it so much, they'll buy it a second time. As a Nintendo fan, I've bought a lot of games, a lot of times, a lot of the same game a lot of times, more so than on any other platform for any other company. It's kind of ridiculous, but this statement's interesting to me because it really puts the PlayStation porting in a new light and in a more negative light. I just never really thought about it as sort of a double charge, and I'm curious as to how many people that own the game on console are then buying it again on PC. I don't really know what those numbers actually are, but the idea of waiting to charge you again or trying to loop you in to buy the machine up front, yeah, it does sound a little slimy when you put it that way, and I didn't really think of it that way before. So it does make Xbox look better in that regard, in a way. It kind of depends on what you care about, right? Because we've seen plenty of PlayStation fans get upset at losing the exclusive that they had and the reason for buying the console and all of that. So it just sort of depends on your perception of it. But it was interesting as a different way to look at the situation. Continuing with PlayStation news, Jim Ryan talks about lack of support for older games on PS5 and talks about an infamous quote. Again, this comes from Eurogamer, Wesleyan Poole, who is citing Axios Gaming's newsletter. The infamous quote in question comes from an interview with Time in 2017, in which Jim Ryan said the PS1 and PS2 games, they look ancient. Why would anyone play this? I don't think I need to explain why people were taken aback by that and thought that was kind of, a bit outlandish. It was a little controversial. Discussing that quote with Axios, Ryan said he gets frustrated whenever it's brought up. Quote, "It goes with the territory, but I get a little frustrated at still being hit over the head with this one. The point I was trying to make, obviously not very well, was just how great the PS4 version looked and how far the series had evolved. I certainly wasn't trying to be disrespectful to our heritage." Ryan continues saying, what is important to recognize when considering this question about designing a new platform is that time, engineering resources, and money are all finite, and that important trade-offs have to be made in terms of what's included and what's not. Sony, Ryan said, likes the franchise remake and new entry model, pointing to the PS4 remake of Ratchet and Clank PS2 and this week's release of the brand new Ratchet and Clank on PS5. Quote, "We believe this approach keeps our IP fresh and contemporary." I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. It is pretty funny thinking of back in 2017, Jim Ryan basically saying old game old. But I mean, not totally off base with that original quote to begin with. I mean, the fact of the matter is older games don't look as good as newer ones. And sometimes you can also feel that gameplay gap between, old tendencies and how we currently make games today. I think it's really interesting to think of the refresh model as a way to kind of keep the brand and the IP moving forward. And as much as I think it'd be fun to be able to play old games on my new consoles, I'm personally kind of okay with it. Like, I don't know how much I'd really be taking advantage of that, even if it was offered to me. Even looking at like the Nintendo side of things, right? They have their online system and they have all these older games, and some of them are really classic, but a lot of them are not very good. And I just frankly am not that interested in having access to those. I would so much rather it be newer games or indies or just kind of anything else. It feels like a really weak service, and seeing that kind of makes me not miss having those older games. Would it be cool? Sure, but is it needed? Not really, and I'd rather that those resources go into, again, moving things forward, like Jim Ryan said, rather than looking back in the past. And speaking of moving things forward, Ratchet and Clank devs take to Twitter to praise what they say is lack of crunch at Insomniac. This comes from Kat Bailey over at IGN, who writes, multiple Ratchet and Clank developers took to Twitter today to say that Insomniac's forthcoming PS5 exclusive was developed without crunch. While they were careful to note that it was strictly their experience and that they didn't speak for the whole team, they did praise what they considered a healthier work-life balance than could be found at many AAA studios. Animator Lindsay Thompson wrote in a tweet, quote, "I didn't crunch once entire production, a couple late nights here and there finishing something up, but completely crunch free. It is possible. Team wellness lets creativity flow free." And a bunch of other people spoke on this as well. This is really cool of a conversation that is being had around this game, especially for something that looks so fantastic, that was such an important title for PlayStation to be able to land well in a big way, as one of the few titles that's showing off the power of the PS5, the SSD, all of that good stuff. So yeah, this is really cool to hear, and especially from, a studio that is so prominent. It's really important for industry leaders to be leaders, not just in having great games that sell really well, but in having good business practices. Hopefully we see more of this kind of thing going forward, and hopefully this is, the case across the board. We don't really have a way of knowing this at scale without doing, further research and investigating, but it sounds promising, and it does make me hopeful for the future of game development and hopefully a lack of crunch in the industry, or a decrease in crunch in the industry at the very least. And speaking of industry practices, Ubisoft is designing more flexible ways of working. This is an email that was sent out to the team that was also shared in a news post over on Ubisoft's website. which states, in the future, we will embrace a hybrid and tailored approach to work arrangements. This means many of you will be able to balance in-office work with work from home. Jobs that are incompatible with working from home, given the nature or due to technical constraints, will remain fully office-based. A small number of roles and individuals will be eligible for full remote work. This approach allows us to account for the variety of job, families, locations, and preferences that make up our more than 20,000 person strong global company. We recognize that a production team about to ship a project versus a global IT support team or digital marketing team, for example, all have very different needs. We will avoid a one-size-fits-all approach and empower local leaders to make decisions for their teams and their projects to drive productivity, quality, and ensure happy and healthy teams. In this hybrid world, the office will remain a core pillar of the Ubisoft experience. Many of you have expressed how much you value the office as a place of collaboration, learning, socialization, and coming together as a team. We'll continue to evolve our office spaces to make these in-person moments together the very best they can be. And then it goes on to talk about, here are the specifics that this means for you, talking to your managers, all of that stuff. So they're now offering a hybrid approach, but a lot of jobs will also be still in-office mandatory, and very few will only be remote. And as far as the reason for this being, I think Jason brings up some good points. Jason Schreier, who tweeted about this before this post went live on the website, he got the email ahead of time and then kind of contextualized some of that. So I'm going to pull from some of his tweets, in which he says, I imagine this decision is fueled by Ubisoft's lucrative tax credit deal with the Montreal government, which presumably requires employees to actually stay in Montreal, but I wonder how it will play out long term. As some have pointed out, one option to get around this could be to allow remote work so long as employees kept living in the province of Quebec, but Ubisoft clearly wants to keep the office central to their work. I wonder if other AAA game publishers will follow the same path. Someone then mentions, isn't remote work sort of one of the causes of delaying these games? To which Jason says, COVID is delaying games because it's a global pandemic that has had all sorts of effects on supply chains, childcare, physical and mental health, etc. Remote work is certainly a factor, but it's impossible to isolate it and short-sighted to blame it. The tax thing he brings up is obviously a really important point to consider, but more so than that, I feel like there are just companies that just don't want to have you work remotely. That's just the fact of the matter. It could be for any number of reasons, even if it's something as much as we want to see you working and watch you working and have you have that feeling of you're working, and the idea that maybe you wouldn't be as productive at home or other elements. I know that sounds kind of intense and borderline evil, but I do think there's a line between we really want to foster collaboration and we want to watch you or have you be around. It's a different feeling when you're sort of not just a Slack away, but I can walk up to your desk and have a conversation with you. And while it's super convenient and really powerful for productivity, I do wonder, kind of like what Jason mentions, how the game industry will move over time in terms of remote work, because there are definitely a lot of people, even outside the games industry, just in other jobs, who are like, I am not going to come into an office anymore. I only want to work remote. And a lot of companies are accommodating that. So it'll be interesting to see how things, turn out over the next couple of years. But basically you won't be able to really work from home as a Ubisoft employee. Not completely, at least. Spotlighting some upcoming events. Annapurna Interactive is having an event happening on July 29th. And it reads as follows. Join us at 12 p.m. PT on July 29th for Annapurna Interactive Showcase. We've got gameplay reveals, new game announcements, and a few more surprises. This is part of Summer Game Fest, so mark your calendars for next month when Annapurna shows off some stuff. And now for some event recaps, starting with the Playdate Showcase. We got info on Playdate pre-orders that are going to be open in July. We will be notified about a week, maybe a little bit more ahead of time for when those pre-orders are going to open up, and they should just be available. You don't have to worry about pre-orders selling out. It'll just be the later you pre-order, the later you get the device. So if you are interested, pre-order as soon as they go live. And this nifty little handheld with a crank will be $179. But we also learned about a new thing during the Playdate announcement, update, detail, deep dive, whatever you want to call it. There is the first accessory unveiled, and it is a Bluetooth stereo speaker that can also hold a pen, and it also includes a pen. So really Really odd little thing, but kind of cool. And my sort of running joke I've been saying is that it gives you a reason to be able to use this, even if you end up not playing any of the games, because we all know buying games and playing games are two different hobbies. Basically, you just snap it onto the front, and it has like a little bit of a stand, so you can sit it on your desk. It very much is a like little statement piece, apartment accessory type device. Really cute looking, super nifty. I'm kind of obsessed with it. I'm absolutely going to buy one when it comes out. We still don't know the pricing on this device yet, though, so I have to keep an eye out for that. I'm assuming that will be part of the pre-orders, but I don't quite know if that's true. But yeah, you'll be able to like listen to music on this and like different stuff, and it's kind of trippy and kind of awesome. I'm into it. And for this, I'm just going to read straight from the press release, which states, the Playdate update also revealed 21 out of the 24 exciting games included with Playdate as part of the Season 1 lineup, doubling the amount of games that were previously announced, new development partnerships for Playdate software, games, and more. Playdate encourages developers to experiment with new ideas of play using the analog crank, a sentiment fully on display in the 24 titles that make up Season 1. Playdate owners will receive 2 games per week for 12 weeks. So, y'all, this means if you buy the Playdate, you don't have to worry about buying games. The games are just automatically going to be added, updated in there, and they're dropping 2 games per week for 12 weeks. That's Season 1. TBD on whether or not we'll have to pay like for the games on Season 2 or anything like that, but Season 1, totally free, included with the console. It then details all the games that are revealed. Not too many, I don't personally have any notable comments on this, though there are some definitely like well-known developers here. Just nothing that really stands out to me a whole lot. Maybe Hypermedia, because it's by Vertex Pop, and I like Vertex Pop a lot. But other than that, it's just a bunch of weird Game Boy energy stuff going on, and I'm here for it, honestly. It's really striking, really unique, and I'm just obsessed with the little crank. It's just so cool. I will say some notable standouts are the fact that Lucas Pope, who is the maker of Return of the Obra Dinn and Papers, Please, is going to be working on a new game for Playdate called Mars After Midnight. And a narrative development company called Sweet Baby will guide and mentor 2 teams of up-and-coming developers from marginalized communities, led by experienced veterans from the games industry, on the development of 2 original games, Recommendation Dog and Real Steel. And another really cool highlight is that developers will be able to sell future independently developed software for Playdate themselves that can be sideloaded onto the Playdate. So essentially, you're going to be able to just develop games for this fairly easily. It'll just be all done in browser and then just added on there. And one thing I sort of missed the first time around is that there will also be a Playdate cover for sale, and the cover will be $30, so you can get a bundle where you get the Playdate and the Playdate cover for $1.99 USD if you want to buy those things together rather than buying the cover separately. I'm so incredibly excited about Playdate. I've been looking forward to it since it was first announced, and I just cannot wait for this thing to come out. I think it's going to be so fun. I don't know how like big of a deal it's going to be or anything like that, but I am excited about it. And it's just great to see people doing something that they're just truly passionate about. It feels so wholesome, so creative. I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. And I encourage you to watch the presentation if you haven't already. Even if you're like, oh, I don't know, this doesn't sound like my thing. It sounds so niche. I feel like this presentation really won a lot of people over, and I think it'll win you over too if you're listening to this and are not really aware of Playdate or have not really been paying a lot of attention to it. Please check this out and, maybe go ahead and pre-order when they drop in July. And then we have the Summer Game Fest live kickoff, featuring games like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is not a Borderlands game, though it's using a Borderlands character. It's not part of the Borderlands series. Instead, it is basically a high fantasy take on a looter shooter. And this is set to release in early 2022, with more ideally to come in the summertime. Personally, just not that interested in this. I played quite a bit of Borderlands 3 and just was not interested. The Borderlands humor, sensibility, even though it's not a Borderlands game, so maybe this will be different. It's going to take a lot for me to try this one out, honestly. But for something I am very excited about, Metal Slug is back and it's tactics based. We're going to have Metal Slug Tactics. And I'm into this because I'm someone that has very recently gotten into tactics games, and I tend to like things that are not traditionally tactics series. It's like Mario plus Rabbids was the first time I ever did anything tactics based at all, and since then I've done like a bit of Overland. I've just dipped into a couple other things, and I'm into it. So Metal Slug good, Tactics good, Metal Slug Tactics hopefully also good. Death Stranding is getting a Death Stranding director's cut, and it seems like it's also going to have additional stuff to it. I mean, it's kind of implied with the director's cut, right? Additional content. We see at one point Sam Porter Bridges put down a box and then get into the box and then get out of the box. But okay, that didn't really mean a whole lot. A lot of people were saying, hey, this gives me Metal Gear vibes. Maybe it'll be something a little bit more traditional in terms of gameplay for what we're used to seeing from Kojima. But that's basically all we know, with more details to follow in the coming weeks. Personally, I'm still really, really hoping that we get some cool DualSense integration, and if we do, I think that'll be enough to finally get me to check out Death Stranding on the PlayStation 5, because I didn't play it the first time around, and I'd really like to see what it's all about. So TBD on that. We also don't really know anything about like the price, or if there's a additional price, if it's, you know, a free update, if there's like a new SKU. All of those details were not discussed, but we do have this little bit of info, so that's pretty cool. Jurassic World Evolution 2 will launch later this year. Management sim game, but I never played the first one, so I don't really have strong feelings of this. And I'm not like, I wouldn't define myself as being a Jurassic World fan to begin with, or a Jurassic Park fan, or what have you. So yeah, this is fine. I mean, it looks really pretty, and I do like management sims, so maybe this is something worth checking out, but it didn't strike me as, you know, one of my favorite things of the show. We gotta look at an MMORPG by Smilegate RPG and Amazon Games called Lost Ark. That's gonna be coming to the West this fall. And again, this falls into that category of like, okay, I'm not particularly interested because that is not my genre of taste. And for more stuff outside of my genre of taste, we got Call of Duty Black Ops, Cold War times Warzone, with the knowledge that Season 4 will begin on June 17th, bringing new maps, new weapons, content, expanded zombies content, and that the update is free. We got an Among Us roadmap trailer discussing the brand new hide and seek mode that's coming down, new roles such as sheriff and scientist, new colors, different cosmetics, achievements, a tease of map 5, but that is basically the extent of all of that. Yoshida made an appearance for a hot second to rep PlayStation Indies, including Chicory, A Colorful Tale, which is already available. I'm looking forward to playing this. I have not gotten a chance to play it yet, but it got really rave reviews. A lot of people that I vibe with love this game, including Rebecca Valentine, including Natalie Flores, and probably other people that I'm just not even thinking of. But I am so excited to check this out based on that hype alone, though I was already interested in it to begin with. But yes, very much looking forward to checking this one out. But wait, Shuhei Yoshida had more. Also talked about the Salt and Sacrifice. Hold on. But wait, Yoshida had more, revealing Salt and Sacrifice, which is a sequel to Salt and Sanctuary. For Metroidvania fans, action RPG people, this one is for you. We got another Solar Ash gameplay trailer, a new trailer. This game is supposed to be coming out later this year, but TBD on all of that, because this is a game that I feel like we've heard a lot about, and the hype has definitely been building for it, but I have not necessarily, you know, gotten that final punch of, you know, when's it coming out? When can we play this game? That's still TBD. Hopefully hear more about that at Annapurna Showcase. And again, for a reminder, this is the second game from Heart Machine, in which players will find a surreal, vivid, and highly stylized world filled with wild, high-speed traversal, endearing characters, and massive enemy encounters. Chivalry 2 is available now, and it got its launch trailer during the show. Valorant got the world's shortest tease for who the next agent will be. We got some new footage of the shooter Escape from Tarkov, showing off a new area of the game as well. Management stands can rejoice because 2 Point Hospital developers are releasing a new management sim called 2 Point Campus, which is exactly what it sounds like. You're managing a college campus, figuring out the coursework, extracurriculars, all of that stuff. There's like a wizard involved. You can be a clown. I don't know. There's like a lot going on in this trailer a little bit, but seems cool. 2 Point Hospital is pretty popular, so I imagine this is more of that, but obviously with a significant twist in terms of location and theme and possibilities. And that's going to be coming out in 2022. Smite is getting a collab with Netflix's Stranger Things, so there you go. We gotta look at Prime Matter, which is working on over 12 games, including but not limited to Outward, King's Bounty, Echoes of End, and a new Painkiller game is in the works. And in an extremely fitting collaboration, Fast and Furious is having a Rocket League crossover that's going to be appearing in the game on June 17th. We gotta look at Shark Mob's Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines multiplayer game. It is a free battle royale game. Your look is entirely customizable, and you can now sign up for the closed alpha before the game releases later this year. And now for something that's unfortunately very much up my alley, Supermassive Games is continuing its Dark Pictures anthology with House of Ashes. I am so excited about this because I am invested in seeing through this series, even though it's not good, y'all. It's not good. And to be honest, I didn't like Until Dawn either. I know a lot of people stand Until Dawn. I thought that was also not good and that this was significantly worse. But House of Ashes is going to be following American and Iraqi soldiers who like end up inside this temple, and there's like a monster there and stuff's going down. That's going to be coming out on October 22nd, which just right in time for spooky season. I'm going to play this absolutely. I just need to do it. This is just something I'm compelled to do. I have to see it through. Pretty much anything the studio makes, I'm just stuck playing their games. I can't escape it. I love choice-driven stuff, and I gotta show out. I gotta show out for this, so I will be playing this when it comes out. We got a new Tales of Arise trailer. Again, that game is coming out on September 10th, 2021. The version of Sky Children of the Light is coming to Nintendo Switch on June 29th, with the Le Petit Prince season starting on July 6th. Planet of Lana and Off-Earth Odyssey was revealed. That's going to be coming out in 2022 for Xbox and PC. It's a game by Thunderful and Wishfully, and I'm into this. I like the art style of it. I like the cute little follower character. We got some forest action. We got some machines. We got some giant creepy machines. It has a little bit of a bunch of different visual appeal points for me, so I really vibe with that. We also got a little look at new Overwatch skins. We got a Let's Play style look at Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance, which is coming out on June 22nd, 2021. Going down July 2021, Paladins is collaborating with an animated web series called Genlock, which is like Rooster Teeth's thing. And that's going to bring new content to the game that is inspired by Genlock. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin is going to be coming out on July 9th for Nintendo Switch. An arcade-style skate boating game called Wave Break got an interesting trailer featuring Wheezy mode, a level centered around Weezer's new song, Tell Me What You Want, which was a song that was specifically made like sort of DMCA free, stream friendly. We got another look at Endless Dungeon. There's going to be a Fall Guys Near Automata crossover that's happening on June 18th. From the creators of Left 4 Dead, there's Back 4 Blood, and the game will be coming out on October 12th. Tribes of Midgard Giants are coming. Looks just a lot like Valheim, unfortunately, for this game, but essentially you're like getting resources, you're working through like this world to become the ultimate Viking crew of 4. You can craft weapons, all that stuff. So again, very kind of reminiscent of Valheim, though the art style looks pretty different. That's going to be coming out on July 27th for PlayStation and for PC. Coming from Saber Interactive, this I just can't help but think of Friday the 13th, the game, when I look at this, but Evil Dead, the game, is a horror game that's on its way to PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and PC in 2021. And you can team up with your friends as classic Evil Dead characters, or you can be the demon. So yeah, it does remind me a lot of Friday the 13th in so many ways. And of course, Elden Ring was the big thing shown off. And shockingly enough, it got a release date, January 21st, 2022. That is not that far away. We saw a bunch of... It wasn't exactly gameplay, but it was sort of just a trailer that was a little bit leaning more on gameplay than like a cinematic would. And in that, we saw a whole bunch of creepy creatures, monsters, and such. There's, I'm sure, a million breakdowns of this if you want to like dig deep into the lore and the speculation and all of that. But yeah, I was pretty shocked to see this. And as someone that just started playing Souls games, I don't have a strong feeling toward this, but it is really cool to finally really be out there and feel like a real thing. Overall, I was pretty underwhelmed with the things that were shown off, with a few exceptions. Obviously, Elden Ring, release date, a huge get, pretty exciting. But other than that, it was a pretty small amount of things that I found notable or worth getting excited about. Metal Slug Tactics is super cool. And a few indie things either caught my eye or were already on my radar, and I'm just looking forward to getting more info on them. But yeah, it was very much just okay in terms of being a showcase. And those are all the stories we have for this week. Thank you so much for watching over on YouTube. Be sure to like, tap the bell, subscribe, and for listening on podcast services, be sure to leave a review and be following along. It helps the show a whole lot. And as always, a huge thanks to my patrons over on Patreon. You too can join at patreon.com/Gameonysus. We have rewards all the way as low as the $1 tier up to the $25 tier. And as always, I will see y'all here next time. Bye.